president's job is to support the system, and our job is to support him and to protect him, and on and on and on. And the Congress, and they was mad because they had something going before the Congress the last couple of days, and the Republicans backed up on them. And these are the police. Now remember, the way they're looking at it, a couple of police committed suicide, right? And one of them was killed down there. Now you gotta imagine them, the police first. They're honored to be up there on the Capitol and to protect their Congress and to protect America because it works. So technically they're not the police driving up down the street. They're gonna run into Congressman so-and-so, Senator so-and-so every day. They're gonna learn they're gonna learn, hey, how's your kids today, Jimmy? How's your daughter? How's their education, right?
Yeah, right, yeah.
They automatically, he's standing right by his door all the time, he sees him all day, and he's not equal to a congressman or senator, but he's protecting him. He's in the family. He's in the Capitol Hill family, right? Now what happens when the people in the Capitol Hill family, their leader, Don, call the other white folks and tell them, you come here and you tear this thing down. And everything that they're trying to, and when you look at the film, they was really giving them police trouble.
Yeah, they were.
And them guys, if you don't tussle a long time, if you train for a fight, you can tussle many rounds. But if you're not trained, after about 2 minutes, you're tired. With all that breathing stuff on too, you're tired. Try to fight for 2 minutes. Try to fight 1 3-minute round, see what happens. Snot gonna be coming out of your nose. Just one round without training for it, right? That ain't no joke. Like right now, I'll be back on the bag, but I haven't been on the bag in a month. I've been running, I've been enjoying everything. But when I get back on that bag, shoot, snot gonna be running out of my, I know what to do. I'm gonna ease on up, and next day a little bit more. So after about a week, I can do what I wanted, maybe 2 weeks. Look what they did to those people. You should have heard them on TV. They were exasperated. They were really, they couldn't understand how the leader of the free world would have white folks come in packing pistols. And I just happened to I took my daughter to the hospital for a little appointment. And we saw them white folks coming that day. When she came out, she said, let's go down. I said, I'm not going down there. We went right about, way around the freeway. I said, did you see them? They said, yeah. You could see all of them was packing. You could see right under here, okay, I want you to understand what that looks like to the people who actually love America. Their capital being assaulted. And the police departments. How do they see their guards, the people like them, the men in blue, the honored job? They're not being protected. In fact, the one that's calling them is calling them and say, come on down and just act the fool. And they come and act the fool. And then they put a bill in there to charge Trump. And all of the old Republican senators were saying, yeah, this, that, and other, and then walk right in there and say we're against that bill and walk right out and say we're for it. But when they're in the vote, that's what they did just the day before yesterday. They just did that. And the guards are just, I mean, they ain't playing, they foaming at the mouth. And you can imagine now not only the disappointment about America, but remember, their brother, their cousin, one of the guys, a sergeant, he was over in Iraq. He went over to Iraq, he came back. So you know he got, I don't think he playing about this, what do they call it? Shell shock, huh?
PTSD.
PTSD. He ain't playing. You can see it in his eyes when he's talking. And the Negro is Superman. And remember, they done lost some of their people. And they said, what kind of, I want you to just imagine the last couple of days. You could look at it on your news when you go back. You know, this is Sunday, they review all of that. I want you to just review how not only America, the leader of the free world, their capital being attacked by other Americans.
The police, 33% of them
Right.
were police.
Yeah.
And military personnel.
Military personnel.
Military personnel. It don't make no difference how this happened, what happened, but that incident alone, and it not being dealt with properly, right? I want you to just think about how that affects the impression of America on the outside, right? I want you to think about what it does to America on the inside. And remember, those people that were either killed, one of them committed suicide, something like that, I don't know. This is what they say. Can you imagine the esprit de corps, the feeling of the group that they might have now? Their morale is in the basement. And the other people, their friends and their family, or their supporters, their morale is in the basement too. Donald Trump yesterday gives a speech, the same one he's been giving all the time. The vote, they're legal, and they did this and they did that. That man is crazy, right? And he's got enough people with him that they do the same cheering when he says get on something like that. Now, you got to remember, we said Donald Trump is here to first destroy the Republican Party, number two, to destroy America. I want to now, with that in mind, deal with the Thucydides trap. That means when an empire is coming up, another one is going down, and they face a challenge. I want you to remember some of the things that you've heard. Number one, China has 95% of the people support the Chinese government and what it's doing.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, I mean,
I've heard that too. Yeah.
And not only that, can you imagine within 10 or 15 years, they brought 800 million people out of poverty into what they would call their middle class. And then they just went back and they say they done brought the last batch out of extreme poverty. That means if you were super poor and you now kind of poor, you're just happy with that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you done moved up. And you got a promise and you got a system that's making things better for you. And so how you going to get 95? That sounds like one of them elections that they have in the Congo or something. where 95% of the people voted for the dictator, right? Those are, can you imagine? 95%. What about America? America is in a state of psychological civil war because they have so many 70s, so many millions of people that's for Trump. And they got 80 million people on the other side. When you get numbers like that, you're in trouble. And his meeting last night proved. So technically, there's no need for Thucydides' trap, but they have it. Why? Because they're challenging China, and they started it. You know, you got to straighten up. And they talked to him. And the Chinese said, you got people laying in the street, you're killing them by the boatload, you know, worse than anywhere in your history, and you telling us that we got to straighten up something? You're technically crazy. What's wrong with you? Not only the Chinese are saying, but so does everybody else. They say, what? Right? So they got the Thucydides trap going on that they helped devise. They're the ones that cooked that up. But nobody else, it's not something that's a big, something the Russians did or the Afghans did. All of that they did. And credibility, they say, well, the Chinese are doing this to their people. And, you know, there's no Muslim country in the world that says China, let's look at the statistics, is doing what they're saying. Most of them cooperate with China. Most of them cooperate. I mean, Arab governments, Muslim governments, they cooperate with China. So evidently, whatever they're saying over here that's going on is not really happening. Or it's 2 or 5% oppression, which they get, if we get 40% oppression, or 80%, I don't know, and they get 5 or 2%, well, what's the big deal? Okay, let me get, I'm going to try to keep moving here. So, Thucydides' trap is a natural phenomenon. But the United States then chose to fight China at a time when China got Belt and Road going, this going on, that going on, and it's on the ascendancy. And Chinese lowered their prices so they could sell to America. The ships are still coming from overseas right today. They was talking about the port in San Pedro, that's in LA. They said the ships are coming over and unloading and going back empty. What does that mean? No export. That means the United States is going into more and more debt that China and everybody else is producing over there and sending it over here. Right?
Right, yeah. Yep.
So that means the United States, if you just took that one thing, that's enough to break the bank. We don't know when the dollar is going to collapse, but it's just when. We didn't know when the Roman currency would collapse. The British pound used to be $5 when the British pound was made a global currency, because the British Empire used to be $5. Now it's $1 or something. You know, almost nothing. Pretty soon it'll be $1, the British pound. Okay. The Thucydides trap. The second thing we want to talk about America is floods, fires, desertification, plastics in the ocean, and all of that stuff. turtles, they get their fossil. And it's everywhere. The rivers are just pushing sludge out into the, okay, just a little bit, it's salty, it'll clean it up. It'll eventually wash up on the sand will clean, sand, all this thing. And it'll clean pretty soon, be white sandy beaches. But now, the sludge going into it's like the people that are trying to bathe in the Ganges, to get clean. I don't know if anybody has seen the Ganges. Good God, right? Yeah. If you think the rivers look bad here, you can smell the Ganges running through India. With all, just imagine now, all them millions of people. Now it's 1 billion points, so half of their trenches along the Ganges are leading into the river. So when it rains, which it does in India all the time, where it's dry, the overflow goes into the river, and all the plastic and all the garbage and all this thing. When you look at the side of the river, it just looks unbelievable.
I saw they had it in Kenya. It's so bad you can actually walk on water. That's how bad the plastic is. That you can walk, like I said, you can walk on the river on the plastic.
Can you imagine?
And they showed it because a lady has figured out how to take that plastic, and she's creating bricks. So she's happy. I mean, she's not happy, but she's invented a brick that's stronger than concrete because of the plastic that she's seen on the river.
Okay.
That's how bad.
That could help them. They could. There should be big strainers on all the rivers, the Amazon, all of them. That go into the ocean or go into the bays and what have you to clean that stuff up. Maybe if they did all the new building with plastic, that'd be a great idea. Yeah, mix it up with a strengthener and no more building with bricks. Leave that stuff in the dirt wherever you get the bricks, right? And now build with plastic. Build all new homes, big bricks out of plastic. Okay, that would be fine, but they're not doing that right now. Plastic is going into the water. The animals, the fish of the sea and all of that, it's being destroyed. The earth, the water in the earth regulates the temperature, just like water in your body, you know what I mean? You got enough in there, and it regulates things, right? If you ain't got enough in there, it's going to be pretty bad for you. Floods. One part of the earth is having floods of biblical proportions. That's the way they use the language. It means floods back in the old days. It used to just drown everything out. And poor California. It's not just California, there's other parts of the world. In India, they're having serious droughts. And the parts that have a little drought, and it just moves over where they already had those huge floods every year. Now they have super floods. In other words, imbalance. We'll get back to the point in a minute. So remember, we got the Thucydides trap. When somebody's going down, somebody's coming up. Probably now, with weaponry the way it is, it may not be a fight, but the one that was going down was the one starting the problem with the one coming up. And everybody in the world, okay, so the British may join America and all that, but they already know that's for racial and economic reasons. We're going to get a better deal if we go with the Americans. That could be the Australians, that could be all of the New Zealanders, it could be everybody. We got a Western Bloc. If we blow it, see what they're going to do. Okay, so they can sell that a little bit right now. It's still not flying. Not flying too big. Okay, let me speed up. Floods, fires, desert, plastic, military-industrial complex. I remember when I didn't know nothing about the military-industrial complex. The professor, this is what we call a professor. The professor had been in Africa for years before us, and his mother was part of the Garvey movement, because he'd always say, Mama, when she come here, so he was telling me about the military-industrial complex. He said, you hear what Eisenhower said. In fact, I looked it up, and it was a speech Eisenhower gave in January 1960, I guess it was, 61, just when he's leaving the presidency. He said, beware of the military-industrial complex. Now that was it. That means, see, before, when you had before the Civil War, there was a small army, and after the Civil War, they got rid of everybody, and except the people who want to come out here and fight Indians, you know, right? So the army would get small. After World War I, they bring in a big army, then everybody go home, mind your own business. Small army. After World War II, they saw how much money they could make by maintaining a so-called Cold War, maintaining a permanent enemy, right? That you have to have an arms race with. So that means all of those people, you don't muster out and have an army of 150,000 men, millions and millions. You got to pay their salary, you got to do this, you got to do that. And also the other agencies of the government, the spy agencies.